everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox, here to remind you that this is the best season of your life. We are going through this journey of self discovery together, and we're also tapping into that journey of religious deconstruction. Why? Because you've shared that you have reached a place where the things you want and to become your true authentic self is conflicting with the thoughts, the things, the doctrine that you have learned and the doctrine you follow in your religious belief. And you've come to a place where you have all these questions. So we are tapping into all of that. Some of you have asked things like, what exactly is a journey of self discovery? And I thought, well, kind of like every show, I share it so that we can kind of refresh our memory. And a journey of self discovery is really tapping into your inner child. It's going back to that place to discover that little person, that stands in awe and wonder and just curious about life. That inner child that has no fear. You remember when you were a little child and you had on your rain boots and it rained and you would stomp in the your boots in a puddle and the water came up and it soiled your uniform, so forth, and you didn't really care, you didn't really know the repercussion that that would have, you soil your white shirt and stuff like that. Anyway, it's just returning to that place to discover that inner child. And when I say discover, it's not discovering because you were lost. No, it's becoming aware. It's becoming consciously aware that that person is there, and that person is a person that has no fear, that is curious about life. That person has no worry, no fear, no doubt, and looks forward every day to waking up and going to play. You go to school, you enjoy school, and then you enjoy the pleasures of life. And it comes a point where we all want to go back to that place. Now, as we go back to that place, there's some things that we're going to learn about ourselves, things that are totally different, things that we didn't really realize until, because now what we're doing is consciously going back, tapping into that space. And as that continues to unfold, we will have the courage and we will have the understanding to set up our own core values, that which we will live by and which we will be guided by. I shared with you, like, I've got my core values, which are so me, but I also have the principles by which I live. And I created that when once I, came to myself and realized what would work for me. And that is love, kindness, and compassion. Those are the principles that I live by. And it's that simple. I don't get into a whole bunch of doctrinal thing. None of that is part of my life. Why? Because love, kindness, and compassion encompasses, the spectrum of, north, south, east, and west, up, down, left, and right. It really takes care of the most important thing, which is, first of all, myself. It teaches me self-love, and also it allows me to have a good relationship with the people around me, with humanity, wherever I go. If that's in the forefront of my mind, love, kindness, and compassion, then those are the principles that I will, exercise when just being. So you will discover what works for you. And as you do that, then you will continue to navigate and change and come to a place where you just uh, you will embody those attributes. You won't have to think about it. Oh, I need to act kind, or need to act loving, or do I need to act compassionate? No, you will embody those attributes, which I have embodied. Whatever attributes you determine um, that works for you, that's the whole thing. Also, this journey of self discovery, and it, we're going to talk about the journey of self-discovery, or I'm sharing now about the journey of self-discovery. And then we're going to talk about navigating through the journey of religious deconstruction, because again, you have determined that there's a conflict. Being your authentic self conflicting with the religious beliefs that you have, and you're asking questions about that. But as you discover these things about yourself, you will become committed to the journey, even more committed to the journey. And you will begin to honor yourself with patience, with kindness, with love, with compassion, with forgiveness. You won't hold things against yourself, even things that you may have done in the past. You're not going to hold it against yourself. Why? Because you're going to give yourself the respect and the honor that you deserve. You're going to know that you can accomplish whatever you set your mind to accomplish. You're going to know that you will walk in a place of freedom. The freedom that allows you to be who you are, the freedom that takes away worry and fret and fear, freedom from not being concerned what people say or think about you. That's one of the biggest things, the biggest hindrance that most of us have. I kind of got rid of it a long time ago because, I've come to once I came to the understanding that everyone is going to have an opinion of you. Everyone is going to have an opinion about you, and you can't change it. But then again, you have to respect that's their opinion. It's not who you are. So you don't have to worry about that. But it comes, it took me a while to get there. Because we are so, our culture is so set up in a way where we want affirmation, we want permission, we want validation, we want all of this, and it's generally we want it from outside. We want it from the people that don't even know us, but we want affirmation. And comes a point where you have to get away from that. I think, with your close connections, family and relatives and so forth, certain affirmation is healthy simply because it validates who you are. But sometimes you have to understand that if it doesn't line up with who you are, what is more important is what you know about yourself. You're going to continue to set up boundaries. You're going to continue to push boundaries as you set up as well your core values. You're going to establish that. What are the things that are important to you? What are the things that you will not stand for? What are the things that you take responsibility for? Everybody should have a core value. This way you are guided by that and not by something that was imposed upon you. And things are going to continue to change. Every time that you discover something, things are going to continue to change. Talk about setting boundaries. That happens not only setting boundaries with people outside. Sometimes you have to set boundaries with those that are right in your household. Not too long ago, I had to set some boundaries with my husband. And, it was funny because I didn't realize that I needed to do that. Now, here's the deal. Saturday mornings, he gets up earlier than I do, and he has his breakfast. He's got peace and quiet, and he is enjoying his breakfast and doing whatever he needs to do at the table. Now, I'm still in bed. I get up perhaps 30 minutes later so that we can have some time to chat, and then 30 minutes later, which now is an hour later, I'm having a cup of coffee. By the time he's done and he's cleaned up all his mess and so forth, by the time he's done, he is ready to do his administrative work. And that means, taking on his bills and setting them aside. He looks at them and does whatever he needs to do. And then he gives them to me so that I can go online and pay them. And there could be 3, 4, 5 bills. He pays them like in advance, so it's always, whatever. So anyway, he gives them to me. Now I'm having a cup of coffee by now. I'm having a cup of coffee, and so he goes out to the bank, runs some errands. He comes back, and the bills are still there. They haven't been paid, haven't been touched. And so one time he said, "What? Why didn't why haven't you paid the bills?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna do it right now as soon as I'm finished with my coffee." And so he made it clear that when he gives me those bills, he really wants it to be done right away so that he can record it. He doesn't record it until he knows that we have a confirmation that it's been paid, and then he records it in his ledger. And so when he said that day, I was a little irritated. I was a little irritated and a little stressed because I'm thinking, well, I have to have my coffee and put in whatever. So the following week, I thought, we need to establish, we have to come to an understanding how this is going to work, because that is not working out. And he doesn't really understand how it affects me. That's, he wants the bill to be paid right away and so forth. So the next week, the following week, he gets up and whatever. And I said, we need to have a clear understanding of this. I said, and I went through the whole thing. You have your breakfast and you have peace and quiet. When I sit down to have my cup of coffee, that is my time. And I want to have that uninterrupted. Yes, we could dialogue, but as far as me going to work, or getting stuff done, like paying the bills, I don't want to have to do that when I'm having my coffee. And after I'm done with my coffee, then after I'm finished done with my coffee, then I want to have my apples. I have a couple of apples and so forth. So during that time of my coffee into my apple and so forth, I want that time to be uninterrupted. So when you give me these bills, it's important that you understand that they will not be paid right away. I will not stop what I'm doing, having my cup of coffee, to pay, because we are on a totally different schedule. You are done with breakfast and you are in work mode, and I am still chilling, having breakfast, having my time of meditation, having my time of quietness and so forth. And I had to make that clear. I said, I will pay it, but when I am done with my coffee and when I am done with my apples, my breakfast. That's Saturday morning. When I'm done with that, I made that clear. And the thing with my husband is he is respectful. He had no idea how I was functioning, but neither did I. I didn't realize that it kind of bugged me. I didn't realize it because we did that forever. He would be finished and then he gives it to me, and I would interrupt my coffee and pay the bills and then give it back to him because I know that he wants to record it right away. And then, I would be having my apples, and then he would bring another. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. But you see, I came to discover that. I came to discover, like, wait a minute, that is not working for me. What happens? It gave me like a level of stress, and I was a little annoyed because I had to, put my coffee down, and that just was not working for me. But I discovered, wait a minute, you need to establish boundaries. You need to set up boundaries. And fortunately, well, not fortunately, I mean, we have such a good understanding that he got it. He didn't know that's the way I wish to navigate. You have your time, and I am on a different schedule about an hour later, but he needed to respect that. But he didn't know. He just thought, I give you the bills and I want you to pay right away, regardless of what you're doing. And because I'd done it that way for, years, weeks, whatever, there was never a complaint. But after a while, we were talking about a journey of self discovery. I realized, wait a minute, I I don't like this. I don't like this. This is not working out for me. He's finished. He's done with his coffee and he's ready to start the day and he wants to. And I said, no. So it's so funny because last Friday, he gives me the bills and he says, I'm going to do this on Friday so that you will have all day to pay it. This way on Saturday mornings, I can record it because I know that it would have been paid. So you see that worked out so perfect because number one, he's respectful and I expected that. I expect him to, but I didn't know it was bothering me. I didn't know it was irritating me. I didn't know it created a level of stress because I'm thinking, here I am having my coffee and, I'm interrupted to have to go, you know, get online and pay a bill. And, it bugged me, but I didn't realize it until I discovered that, wait a minute, I need my time. I need my time of solace, my time of quietness, my time of meditation, my time where I can sit and have a cup of coffee and then I can enjoy my apples. But really, I talk a lot about being mindful and living a meaningful life. That's me. I apply that to myself as well. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm not doing that. I'm all stressed out. And I don't need to be stressed out because of that. So I set up boundaries. And obviously, my husband, he respects it. And he says, I'm going to give it to you on Friday. So this way, there's no rush. You have all day to pay it. And, because I would get it, do the transaction online on a Saturday morning, except that it would be later, when I'm done, with my apples. And that was too late for him. He wanted it done right away because, again, he's doing his administrative work and he wants to record everything. Once he knows there's a confirmation that it's been paid, it was received. Because sometimes there are issues with the online transactions. Sometimes the app may be, you know, they're doing cleaning or whatever, and that has happened in the past. So he wants to make sure that it's confirmed, payment received, and then he records it in his ledger. So see, so when I talk about setting boundaries and discovering things about yourself, you'll discover things that things that was okay, things that were okay years ago, comes today, it's not. I had to make sure and implement changes that will work for me. And as a result, it works for both of us. It works for both of us. So that's one of the things that you're going to discover. You're going to discover things that that may need change in your life and even within your own camp, your family, your friends, your relatives, and you will have the courage to set boundaries, or in some cases you have to push boundaries. You got to push it out. But it all has to do with you understanding who you are, knowing who you are. Because you know what? When you know who you are, you walk with, you have a certain sense of confidence. You grow in your confidence. You evolve, you progress, and you become more confident. And even at work, dealing with your colleagues, your coworkers, your employees, your bosses, whatever, then you become more confident because when people see you that way, you you earn their respect. Why? Because you have already set up your core values. They know what you stand for. I did that long time ago, even before I became conscious of this journey of self-discovery. It's just the person that I am, except that I was, of course, governed by a different set of rules because of my religious indoctrination. But once I got to know Cynthia, once I got to know me, once I got to know myself, and start being curious about life and became open minded and things like that. Things that I would in the past frown upon, not anymore. I'm like open minded. And I really embrace the difference, embrace the things, embrace different ideas, different concepts, different perspective, and all of that. So this journey of self-discovery is not just about you going back and becoming another person. No, you are really tapping into your inner child, and you are bringing out your true identity. Remember what I shared with you on many occasions, that by the time you're 3, 4, 5 years old, your identity has been shaped by external sources, by teachings, by training, by indoctrination. You are shaped. And that's, again, it's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong. It's simply because, your parent is going to train you from what they know. They're going to teach you what they know. And when you go to school, of course, that's academics. You're going to learn from that. That's good. But all those social interactions, you're going to learn from that. There's cultural construct, there's social construct, there's religious indoctrination. All of that shapes your identity. And we walk around being this person that we really are not. And until we come into the understanding of who we are, and then we grow into the person that we really are, our true, genuine, real, and authentic self. And once you tap into that, then it makes you feel um, confident, and you know who you are, and you will change, and people will observe your change. Sometimes people will say to you, "Oh yeah, she's shy," and when in reality you're not. It's just that you've been told that so many times. "Oh no, she's an introvert, she's shy, she's quiet," and no, you want to go out and have a blast, but it's been because of, for whatever reason, you've been told that all your life. And then, with all the teaching, the training, the indoctrination, it just confirms that. And it affirms that part of your personality, when in reality, you're neither shy or an introvert. No, you like to go out and have fun. It's just that you don't feel, or you don't know that you have permission to do so, especially now that you are an adult. You have to give yourself permission to do so unapologetically. And as I said before, you can't be concerned with what will people think, what will they say, because you know what? Once you come to understand that people, everyone is going to have an opinion about you, and you can't help that. You cannot help that. But the thing that you have to understand is that whatever they opine about you is not, whether it's good or bad, that may not be you. When somebody said, "I know you," no, you don't. Look how I changed. From, my husband could say, well, I know you. That's fine. You take the bills and you pay. Well, no, I have changed. Up until then, I was that way. And then I came to realize, wait a minute, that's an annoyance. It bugs me. I don't want to be that anymore. I want something, I want to be able to have time, my quiet time, and for it to be respected. So when you say, "I know you," no, you don't. So don't let anybody tell you that. And, you can't stop them from thinking that, but then you would know that they don't. And the same thing is with this journey of religious deconstruction. Last week, I talked about sex, and I said how sex is an intrinsic part of you. It is intrinsically natural. It is, and that really it is. And once you come to that understanding, you will know that that's the way it is. Now, I know that you've been asking, what does that title of this podcast, that says, how's your sex life? Well, last week I was uh, invited to speak on a podcast, and we were talking, and these folks are going through a journey of religious deconstruction. I had not spoken with them in a very, very long time, and I just learned that. So we were talking back and forth, and one of the things that they said to me is that me talking about sex so openly and presenting it in this manner, that it's something so natural and how we should deal with it, has really, opened their eyes and so forth. And and they said something like, they were part of a church. They're not in a church anymore. They were part of a church, and no issues, a lovely young couple, with kids and so forth, but have a good relationship. And the pastor asked them one day, so how was your sex life? And so they shared that with me, and I said, I was surprised. They said that they were alarmed that the pastor would ask them that. It's not like they were in being counseling sessions and so forth, and then the pastor wants to follow up. No, it's just out of the blue. How's your sex life? And I thought that was quite interesting, because I don't know, because really, if you have issues with your sex life, intimacy or whatever, in my mind, I wouldn't go to a pastor. I wouldn't go to a pastor. I would go to a sex therapist or to a psychologist that specializes, that is trained to understand the dynamics of intimacy and, sex with the couple and so forth. I wouldn't go to a place where, I'm sitting on there. No, that's just out of the question. But they were asked that question, and I thought it was quite interesting, because so I start thinking, what would motivate a pastor to ask a congregant, one of his followers, what would motivate a pastor to ask that kind of a question out of the blue? I mean, is he going around asking other members the same thing? It's kind of strange. And we sometimes kind of, make this sex thing such a thing, and it doesn't really have to be. It's natural. And as long as we understand that, then we can remove the taboo. As I said before, your your sex life is a personal and private matter. It's that simple. Your sex life, for those of you that are uh, not married, unpartnered, or I shouldn't say unpartnered, not married, it's your personal and private matter. And even if you're married, your sex life is a private thing for you to enjoy without having to give any kind of explanation or giving an account to someone else. I mean, what if they said, well, and they started this whole saga? I mean, what was he? And one of the reasons I say that, it's we have to come to a place where we understand that it's something so natural. Because if that, there are another set of pastors that I know with a young daughter in school, high school, and very vibrant, very friendly, and had a special friend that she liked and so forth. And one day she comes home and tells them, I'm pregnant. Now, I would have said, when you have teenagers, as much as we want to talk about, and when I say we, I'm talking about the religious circle. As much as we want to talk about celibacy and abstinence and virginity and all of that, I'm telling you, look, Well, you can determine that for yourself, but it doesn't work. I remember years ago I used to listen to this radio program. It was called Focus on the Family, and they would bring on different medical, like psychologists, medical professionals, like psychologists and psychiatrists and things of that, and they used to address the whole family. And one day they were talking about teenagers and kids and things and so forth. And then there were some school representative, like I think the principal of a school, they were having issues with the teenagers and so forth. And then they came to find out from someone that there was something that's called Christian sex, something like that, Christian sex. And it was interesting because I had never heard anything like that, Christian sex. And what they were talking about, if it was as long as there's no penetration, everything is okay. That was the understanding that these young kids, not kids, these young adults had about sex. Why would you withhold that information from your children? Because they're going to experiment. This pastor's daughter that became pregnant at a very young age, she was still in high school, not even like in the 10th grade, I think. 10th grade. It's our responsibility. It's the adult's responsibility to share that. And when I talk about religious indoctrination, and I'm referring to the Christian religion, simply because that's what I know. But most religions is the same thing. And everyone think they know best. Every person thinks whatever, there are over 10,000 religions around. 10,000. And if you just go with the Christian denominations, there are over 45,000 Christian denominations. But it doesn't matter. Humanity, they're all humans. They're all human. They are all human, and they will respond to life in similar ways. We respond to stimulus. So it's important that you educate your kids about sex. This may make you uncomfortable. That's fine. Then it's not for you. But for you that are going through religious deconstruction, no one understands your humanity and embrace it. And some of the things that you're going to have to get rid of, that's why it's hard to tap into your inner child, because you've been taught for so many years, you've been taught that you're no good. You are a sinner. And that is a big frame of reference when you think of yourself as no good, unworthy, a sinner, that you're bad. When you have all those negative things coming at you, and gnawing at you, and when you have any kind of thought having to do with your sexuality, you think it's dirty, you think it's nasty, you think it's bad, and you don't see it as something beautiful. Just think about it. Be honest with yourself, and you don't have to. However you break down your deconstruction. Some people say, I am not religious, I am spiritual. Well, spirituality, in most cases, you bring that, you drag that. You may not go to church anymore, but then you drag the doctrine, you drag the teachings along with you, and you still have the construct of the taboo, the social and cultural taboo. And all of it really is cultural, because you know what? If you check in your Bible, there's some great stories in the Bible. And one of the stories that's in the Bible, when we talk about when I say that this whole sexual taboo is a social and cultural construct. In the Bible, there was Sarah and Abraham. They were a couple. She could not conceive, and she, after many years trying, she couldn't. So she goes to Abraham, her husband, and she said, I want you to go into Hagar so that she can bear you children. And he agreed. Surprisingly, yeah, he agreed. And he goes to Hagar, sleeps with Hagar, and Hagar becomes pregnant. Hagar becomes pregnant and she gets a little, a little kind of way um, toward Sarah. Anyway, the story is longer. Sarah mistreats her. She leaves. She comes back and she's there. She bears a child and she bears a boy, Ishmael. She gives birth. She gives birth to this Ishmael son. So we've got, here's Abraham and here's Sarah, his wife, and Hagar is the maid, the servant, I guess is what they called him back then. And that was a cultural thing. There was no issue with her. Imagine that, saying, you in your house, you're, barren per se, and then you say, okay, why don't you just take the maid? But and that was something normal. That was something natural. That was something, it was a social, it was a cultural construct. And then 14 years later, Sarah conceived. Sarah conceived and she had a son, Isaac. And then with that, they got rid of Hagar with Ishmael. She left the camp. Why? Because Sarah had her son. Just like that. This is an ancient civilization. It was a common practice. There was some crazy, I shouldn't say crazy, I shouldn't judge because again, it's a story, but there were some things that are so different to what we do today. But what I'm trying to point out is that it is a social construct. The same thing happened in the life of Jacob. Jacob marries, he's supposed to marry Rachel, but they did some kind of a trick. Anyway, the father gives him Leah. Leah was his oldest daughter. Marries Leah, and Leah starts having babies and having babies. And then later on, he marries Rachel, who he really was in love with. Rachel, the younger sister. And Leah is popping out all these babies, and Rachel is barren. She is not having any kind of children, whatever. She takes her servant Bilhah and gives Bilhah to Jacob to bear children for them, to bear children. And then Leah says, "Oh, really?" Her maid, I forgot the name, Zilpah or something like that, she gives her servant to Jacob. This guy is having a feast. He's got Rachel, he's got Leah, he's got Zilpah, he's got Bilhah, and he's kicking out all these kids. Later on, Rachel got pregnant, and she had Joseph and Benjamin, whatever. She was able to bear children later on. But you see, it was a cultural thing. It was no big deal. Like I don't even know if they had in mind, adultery or fornication. They didn't think of anything like that because Jacob sleeping with the servant, that would be, well, I guess you call that adultery or whatever. But the point is, all of that was happening. All of that was happening back then. You see how that is such a social construct. And then it comes down to that, it becomes taboo. We don't want to talk about it anymore. Now, I don't subscribe to this, giving your husband, your servant, that's a whole different thing. But whatever you do with your sexual life is personal and private matter. And don't carry the burden of what you were told, that you're no good, that you're a sinner, and think that every time you do something that doesn't line up with the teaching, that you are sinning. All of that sin and all that those are social constructs. You need to learn that for yourself. I learned it for myself. onto to where I come to a place that certain things, I'm not like, in awe, like, oh, really, the fact that pastor's daughter uh, became pregnant at such an early age, that doesn't surprise me. What disappoints me, or what, I mean, I'm really not disappointed because I have no vested interest in them. It's just, people that I know, is that you've got to talk to your children. Don't assume. Again, when I watched that program, Focus on the Family, and they were talking about, there were medical professionals and school teachers and the principal and so forth, and they were trying to figure out how to bring the doctrine of Christianity to the children, to where they will walk in that understanding, and they will live, according to them, a righteous life. And they push the purity culture, and it didn't work. The purity culture, and they created something that they, the principal said something about. They said it's Christian sex. They created something that, and what that was like oral sex. They call it Christian sex. Why? Because there was no penetration. That's a true story. Go back, check the files, Focus on the Family. I heard that on the radio. Then I think of a young boy that was caught in a compromising situation. Okay, compromising situation with a young lady, and he got busted. And so the pastor calls him in with his father, and I'm a little surprised that anyway, with his father, because I would think that the father and mother could have a conversation with the son and the mother of the little girl. But anyway, the pastor brings him in, and the kid was part of you know uh, volunteering the church for something really significant. And in counseling the kid, asking him like what happened and what led them there and da da da, one of the questions was to the kid, "Did you penetrate?" This is, the thing that I like about my show is that what I share, these are real stories of real people with names. I don't give their names, I don't need to, but these are real stories so that you can know. When you are a life coach, you hear a whole bunch of stuff. So anyway, this kid, so the pastor asked, they're in counseling, his father, himself, and the pastor asked, "Did you penetrate?" What does that have to do with anything? I mean, I didn't understand, when we learned the situation, we were like, really? Like, what did you do as the father? Did you just let him question your kid that way? That's kind of, the kid was already, a teenager. You do deserve some level of privacy and respect. And that question should have been coming from the parent. Now, if they were concerned that I don't know what the details were, because I don't know what the answer was, and it didn't concern me. But the point is, why is that? Again, pushing purity culture. I'm not saying anyone should be promiscuous. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that we need to understand that your sexuality is part of your humanity. And what we have been taught is to separate it. That is taboo. You don't talk about it. You don't, you keep yourself pure, abstinence and all of that, and celibate. You remain celibate. If that is your choice, then that make it your choice, but not don't have it imposed on you. And with it comes guilt, shame, judgment, criticism, and all of those things. You start looking at yourself as dirty and nasty and just not fit for life. There are people that, because of that situation, have considered taking their own lives. Imagine that. So if you can normalize that in your life, as you go through this religious deconstruction, you need to deconstruct from things that if it makes no sense to you, my friend, if it doesn't make any sense to you, then go and do the research. That's what I did. And I shared before, I didn't even know that I was going through deconstruction. I didn't know that I was going through decon. Now there's a name to it, and now you see it all over social media. They have a lot of people talking about that. There are a lot of people talking about uh, the religious deconstruction experience. That's not a subject that I thought I would be talking about, because it's not something that for me, I, made a decision years ago, and live a life that I honor, that I respect, and I'm committed to myself with no effort. And that's the whole thing. It brings a freedom in your life where you are simply committed to yourself, and you respect yourself, and you honor yourself, and you're not concerned or worried about what people think or what they say or what they, how they, your reputation. Because, my character to me is more important than my reputation, because reputation is what people think about you or what they say about you. But when I know my character and I know my relationship with people, and so forth, then that's what I live by. It gives me a sense of freedom. I don't have to worry. I don't have to fret. I don't have to be concerned. And I can talk about things. I can talk about sex, the deliciousness of sex. Why would you be created that way? Why do you think why do you think you were created that way? Does it make sense at all? It's like you were created with eyes. What are your eyes for? To see. You have eyes, you have nose, you have ears, you have mouth, you have touch, feeling. And then you're a sexual person. You have emotions. You are stimulated. Certain things you look at, you are stimulated by that. I can call my husband and just hear his voice, and I'm stimulated by his voice. So he could say something to me or touch me a certain way, and you're stimulated by that. Whatever you do is a personal and private matter. And you have got to get to a place where you understand that your religious indoctrination, and I know it's hard to get rid of those thoughts of you being a sinner. You need to look it up. If it were me, if I, had those situations dealing with that traumatic experience of seeing myself as a sinner and then being afraid of going to a hell and all of that, if I saw myself that way, I would go look up stuff. I would go do my own research and try to learn the truth. Because once you learn the truth, it is the truth that sets you free. It is the truth that will set you free. And to walk in that place of freedom, of knowing who you are, to be authentic. And this way you can navigate through life to accomplish the things that you desire. There's one life that you're living, the life that you have now. and you can live it every day. People say life is too short. You know, it appears to be short when you're not enjoying your life. But if you are having fun and enjoying your life, not even fun, you know, I was listening anyway to a couple of people talk today, and they were talking about uh suffering and how people applaud suffering and they embrace it and they say it's part of life, and that you know, you can't enjoy, you can't have joy unless you have experienced suffering. My friend, if those are your thoughts, if those are your thoughts, then yes, that's what you will attract, and that's what you will have to embrace: suffering. And then you look at other people and you're like, oh my God, you know, like they just go through life and they're fine, they're healthy, they're happy. They go here, they go there, they have these kind of relationships, they're having so much fun. And like what the, my friend, it's the way they think. Like me, I don't, you can't tell me I'm a sinner. It's too late. You can't tell me I'm bad or I'm unworthy or wretched. It's too late. It is too late. And you have to get to that place where you have an understanding of who you are. Your definition of yourself is what matters. Your definition of yourself. And even the most egregious things in life, like, you know, them, I think the most egregious thing is somebody telling you you're bad, you're good, you're unworthy, you're a sinner. That just really messes with your psychic. And there are people that they go up and they go down. They go up and down. They go up and down. Why? Because they don't feel worthy. And when you feel unworthy, you know, it may be, if you don't know that you are worthy, if you don't know your worth, you will have spurts of up and down, up and down, up and down. How frustrating is that? Not only frustrating, but how unfair it is to yourself to think that way of yourself. And I know, you know, a lot of people, they say, well, you know, this is the way I grew up. And if you have been raised with that type of teaching for years, yeah, it's difficult for you to get rid of that. There are people that are going through deconstruction for years. And what happens? That's all they talk about. Instead of enjoying life. Life is meant for pleasure. Life is meant for pleasure. For you to enjoy the things that you do, the people that you're surrounded with, the work you do, the places you go, the things that you're able to do, things that you're able to buy, your material possessions brings you pleasure. That's why you get excited when you get a brand new car or when you get a brand new house. Why? That brings you pleasure. It's a pleasure. It brings you pleasure. Or when you see your child walk down the aisle with a, you know, with a diploma, brings you pleasure. Or when you have lost 100 pounds, what does that do? Oh, no, you feeling a little spicy and delicious. Why? It brings you pleasure. Just think of all the things. When you go and you have a spa day, it brings you pleasure. When you get to go on a ship and have, you know, and go on a cruise, it brings you pleasure. When you get to plan a trip to Europe and go to, you know, get on the train or take a plane and go from one country to another, it brings you pleasure. Even when you are home and you cook a nice meal and you sit with a glass of wine with your partner, significant other, husband, whatever, it brings you pleasure. Life is for pleasure. All the other stuff happens upon us. All the other stuff happens. You know, things happen. But if you're mindful that life is for pleasure, that is what you will attract. That is what you will attract, the pleasures of life. And don't let anyone tell you that, you know, most people, when I would say that, they would want to say, but, they just know that. As a matter of fact, I was sharing that with someone a couple of weeks ago, and they said, "Wow, I can see that you were real passionate about it." But we were talking, and when I said something about, we are talking about what, my show and so forth, and I said something about sex and, the intrinsic nature of sex, and they said, "What did you say?" And I repeated it, and I could tell that that person had an opinion, but they didn't voice it. And at the end of our conversation, they said, "I can see you're really passionate about that." Yeah. But my whole persona just put the brakes on. It's like, no, 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 no. I could tell that, that taboo was kicking in. I could tell. That had nothing to do with me. They asked me, "What is your show all about?" And I here, my friend, I want to keep it real. I want to keep it real, touch on subjects that really affect you. I know this show is not for everyone, simply because not everyone is going through a journey of self-discovery, and not everyone is going through a journey of religious deconstruction. And some of the things that I share, may be controversial, but that's just the nature of my show, and I want to keep it real. And the stories that I bring you, and that's why, I'm so mindful of all the connections that I make, and things that happen around me. I like to absorb it and see the story behind it, because then I can bring it to you in a true fashion, and trust that it helps you to unfold and unpack and develop, and to really delve into who you are and bring out that child like person, to tap into that inner child, that's the child that is pure and confident and loving. So if you want to talk about purity, all of that, you remember when you were a child, you didn't think about anything being bad or dirty or filthy, filthy rag and all that. You didn't think about all that. All you thought about was pleasure, wanting to go outside and play, whether it's raining or whether it's too hot, too cold, whether it's snowing. You just wanted to go outside and play. I'm going to leave you with that, my friend, so that you can enjoy the pleasures of life. Know who you are. Get rid of all those thoughts about being a sinner, being wretched, being no good, and all of that. Get rid of all that and become your true, authentic self. Every week, we're going to touch on these things so that we can continue to unpack and come to the place of truth. And as I said before, this is not something that comes to an end. There's no destination, because you're always learning, just like I learned not too long ago about this little irritant behavior, or this little thing with my husband, putting this kind of demand on me every weekend, until I realized that it was um, bugging me, bring me a little stress. Now we're good. He gives it to me on a Friday. I get it done, and he can record his things and so forth. So anyway, every Thursday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have a date right here. And if you can't make it 2 p.m. Thursday Central Standard Time, then 24/7, you can pick us up. Look at the icons down here on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And if you need to drop me a note, you can go to info at thecynthialinoxshow.com, or you can go to my website, thecynthialinoxshow.com. Go to the bottom, you see a box, drop me a note, and I'm also a certified life coach. If you want to chat with me, and if you need someone to walk alongside with you during this journey, I do offer a 30-minute complimentary session so that we can determine if we are a match to move forward. In the meantime, I'm going to say ta-ta. Weekend is right around the corner. Au revoir. Have a fantastic weekend, whatever you have planned. We are getting into the cool weather, which is one of my favorite seasons. So I'm just looking forward to doing some adventurous thing coming up. And the best part about experiencing adventure is in the planning. And I just love that. So whatever it is that you plan to do, make sure that you're getting pleasure out of it. In the meantime, ciao, hasta luego. See you next week. Same time, same place. Au revoir.